Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, I hope it's sunny,
freezing cold, bitterly terrible.
Well, so you know, I'm not in California.
Where in the world?
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, where, by the way, there's snow on the ground also. It's sub 40 degrees, and I know that everybody in St. Louis is just loving that. It's about time, right? But
yes.
Thanks so much for listening to the show. Again, I'm Jeff Lapidus, 40-plus-year veteran of financial services area, fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And, of course, I'm joined by my very favorite, oldest prodigal daughter, Erin Lapidus, who is also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager.
And we help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to supplement their medical coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Well, babe, good morning.
Good morn. What?
8 hours in the car today, 8 hours in the car tomorrow. I'll be back in the loo.
Praise be.
Can't wait. It's been a lot of fun. And we certainly want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. We have a fun show planned for you. As we like to say, we have a lot of important things on our mind, but what's more important is what's on yours. So give us a call, 314-931-5877, star 5877 from the abolished, I guess that is a text line.
So don't.
Or our text line at 84126. I'm sorry, I had about 3 hours of sleep after a 12-hour drive yesterday.
We're all so sad for you. The text line, which is always so popular in the early morn for us, 84126. So please, with your questions, we'd love to answer them.
Thanks for that wonderful and masterful save. We do appreciate that. And just as a reminder, all of our clients are just like you. They're our listeners. They're over 55. They'd like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, we create a game plan for them that has the goals of creating a fun and hopefully financially successful and less worrisome and fun retirement. Well, that's great. And so before we begin our show, we do want to mention to everybody there are lots of ways to keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. The first thing that you can do is log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click Contact Us. Many of you frequently do this to request coaching sessions, or if you have a question you'd like to ask, a comment you'd like to make, those go directly to my email, so we'll answer them as quickly as we can, even potentially on the air if you happen to sneak one in. So that's jblfinancial.com in the upper right-hand corner. In the lower left-hand side of the screen, a pop-up box will appear that says Sign Up. That's for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner. We briefly discussed our March newsletter last week, but I think because March is just days away, we can revisit that for a moment. The first article is an infographic, so we like to use some pictures. You'll have to log on to the website. We have it posted already. Inflation cuts into wage gains. So this is a little graph showing wage growth over time versus real wage growth, which incorporates inflation into those numbers. And it's pretty timely. As we all know, inflation has been on the rise for the last several months and seems like it may be here to stay for a bit longer. The second article, ETFs are gaining on mutual funds. Here's why. So there are many different ways to invest. ETFs, index funds, are a passive way of entering the market, whereas mutual funds are considered active management. So you'll want to compare the differences between those to see how they fit into your portfolio.
Yes.
The next article, key retirement and tax numbers for 2022.
Woohoo!
So just briefly, this article touches on some of the changes or numbers that have stayed the same between 2021 and 2022. However, there is a nice graphic in the form of a chart that shows contributions to Roth IRAs versus deductible contributions to traditional IRAs. Those income limitations there have changed slightly, about $2,000 each. So you'll want to take a look at that. So you can see if you happen to have become eligible to contribute to individual plans after you've earned a certain amount of income.
Johnny, I was going to suggest here is that I believe that the Roth contribution amounts and the traditional IRA contribution amounts have stayed the same, but several of the company-sponsored plan limits like 401k, simple IRA, SEPs have increased slightly.
That's right. Also, the graphic specifically talks about your modified adjusted gross income range for contributions to a Roth. So, unlike a traditional IRA, if you do not have access to an employer-sponsored plan or your spouse doesn't have access to an employer-sponsored plan, you're always eligible to contribute to the traditional IRA as long as you have earned income. However, Roth contributions are capped out once you've earned a certain amount of money. So, for example, if you're married filing jointly in 2021, you couldn't earn more than $208,000 annually to be able to contribute to a Roth, and that's filing jointly. That's since increased this year to $214,000. So, something to keep in mind, but that does not that. Just because you may fall below the income limitation, you still have to make sure that your contributions are in line with IRS guidelines. For example, you can't make the full 401k contribution in addition to a Roth contribution.
Yeah, always important to check with your tax advisor. And so was that our last article, or do we have a fourth?
We have one final article. When buying is easy, paying later can be a problem. So this is the buy now, pay later loans that are available for individuals, how they work, and why maybe it's a little bit too good to be true in terms of financing and interest rates or interest that you would be paying on these loans.
Yeah, there are rules that happens with these, and so you need to make sure that you are fully aware of them and in a position where you'll be able to begin a repayment process on a timely basis. And if you miss them, you can have some issues. So that's something that's important. We do call it the Coach's Corner. Easy to access. Go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Erin and her staff do keep the last 6 to 8 months of those archived for your viewing, printing, or downloading convenience. But we also do have a presence on social media.
That's right. You can follow us on Facebook, JBL Financial, or you can also follow us on Twitter, the same, JBL Financial. The other great thing that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks, March 10th, is we are going to host a webinar it's open to not only our clients, but all of our listeners. If you're interested, you can send us an email through the website at jblfinancial.com by clicking in the upper right-hand corner, that Contact Us section. Or you can send me an email, Erin at jblfinancial.com. Essentially, what we're going to be discussing is what services we provide to our current clients, what type of management we provide. And I think it's going to be a really fun webinar because essentially we're going to go through what a coaching session looks like, what it looks like once you've decided to work with us, all of the different planning options that we offer and all of the different services. So it's almost like you get a little preview without necessarily having to come into the office, so you can compare if you're on the advisor tour or if you just like to hear a little bit more specifically about what our firm offers.
Yeah, I think this can be very valuable for many folks. If you never had a financial advisor and haven't worked with one, this can answer some questions. If you have a current advisor and you're thinking, hey, I may need one because I'm looking for a retirement planning expert like Aaron and I, might be valuable to come and visit with us on our webinar. And then finally, maybe you're thinking about, is my advisor really the right one for me? Sometimes folks do have questions, especially we know that during these uncertain times, communication is extremely important. We're working very carefully and quickly as we can to try to contact all of our clients, talk about our thoughts, discuss their accounts, what the investment strategy we have for this year, which could obviously be subject to change, so that they can feel better about their money. And really that's what it's all about. So whether you fall in one of these three categories, easy to do. Just go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Aaron didn't mention, but we're doing this on Thursday, March the 10th at 11 a.m.
That's right, and we always promise that we consider your time very valuable, so we will start on time and we will finish in no greater than an hour with our content. We always leave some time available for written questions. That means you'll be able to email me during the webinar if you have any questions that are coming up, thoughts, comments you'd like to make, but we do try to keep it within the hour for everyone.
And you can join us either by Zoom or by audio, right?
That's right. This will be through Zoom, which is fairly easy to use even through your cell phone. You don't have to use the camera portion, and we have all of our listeners on mute, as we'll be the only ones talking during the webinar. So you won't be heard or seen if you don't want to, but you are more than welcome to log in on your computer or use the Zoom link on your phone, which will give you access through Zoom's webpage.
Right, and if you haven't, and we do send you a Zoom link, so the nice thing is you don't have to necessarily download the program, right?
That's right, and the very good thing is that we do request that you request a spot. We have unlimited availability. However, we would like to keep the webinar to individuals that have expressed an interest. So what happens is you let us know that you're interested, you reserve your spot, and then the evening before, which would be March 9th, and the morning of, which would be March 10th, we will send that link out to you specifically. So only the individuals that are interested will be able to log in. We don't post the link publicly for others, just for everyone's security and to keep things nice and orderly.
And we know it's going to be our listeners because those are the folks that are our clients today, and we just love that. So we're announcing this early because it's going to be, I guess, in about almost 2 weeks.
That's right.
So hopefully if you're not a client today, and you're somebody that has some questions, wants to get some perspective maybe on how do I choose the right advisor and do I have the right one, this will be a great time for you. Again, it'll only be 1 hour, which is kind of fun as well. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877, or on the text line, 84126. Right, babe?
That's right. So I know, Dad, you had a topic that you wanted to kick the show off with, so let's get started there.
Sounds like a good idea. I like to try to come up with some fun names for the titles of some of the topics we talk about. But I guess the best one I can use for this one is fun on the phone. We have, that's all I can tell you. We have many clients, especially those that are on the eastern side of the river, that happen to be farmers, or they have family farms. They've inherited them. Sometimes they're working them, etc. And, a farm, honestly, is a business. And, if you happen to own a farm, that it truly is a business. It takes a lot of time and effort. And frankly, I think this discussion, we're hopeful, will be something that really you can generalize to having any type of a small business, right?
That's right, because we have many clients, maybe they're not, as I would consider individuals owning farmland in Illinois to be quite lucky. It's very valuable, and many times, at least with our clients, we've seen that it's been owned through many generations, so it's nice to have some connection to history. But we also have many clients that have small businesses in many different forms, traveling to craft fairs, maybe quilting. We have individuals that have made quite a nice living selling things on eBay on the side. So there are many different forms of additional income, or even, most of the time if we are working with someone that has rental properties, they've already created a formalized business structure for that. But we have many clients that might want to consider some alternative options, and I think that's what Fun on the Farm is all about.
Right, and what it is, again, I think at the end of the day, you'll come to the conclusion that sometimes we can do things a little more tax effectively, but a lot of times you're too close to the situation to think about them. So let's talk about Joe and Sally. Joe's 64. He recently is a retired policeman. And Sally is 62, and she's retired as an administrator at one of the local universities, actually on the east side of the river. I mention this because we work with a lot of police officers, and they're fabulous folks. Most of them are great savers. They have pensions, but also they happen to accumulate a lot of money, and many times what they're able to do also is retire early. Right. In this particular case, Joe inherited part of the family farm, and they are currently they're running it at this particular moment. And Joe actually over time had two brothers, and he purchased their interests from the farm, so that it's really just theirs at this point, which really makes the situation more complicated and at the same time
simpler.
A little less complicated, right?
Exactly. More expensive for Joe, but potentially gives him a lot more flexibility in the options that he has.
Right. And during our coaching session together, naturally I'm asking them, is your monthly income meeting your current cash flow needs? That's extremely important.
And, we ask all of our clients this regardless of if they own a farm or not. But since they've both recently retired, it's important for us to keep track of how they're doing.
Yeah. Babe, why don't you review some of the numbers?
So Joe has access to a pension plus his Social Security, which totals about $6,000 a month of income. Sally also has a pension and her Social Security benefit, which totals about $2,500 a month. So that means between pension and Social Security, Joe and Sally are bringing in about $8,500 a month. Now,
which is wonderful.
That's fantastic. Now, with the farm income, they are netting about $2,000 a month. So that's after what they consider to be their expenses in running the farm. They're bringing in some excess of about $2,000 a month.
I thought this was fun because, it was neat to hear that our clients are doing well. Their cash flow was meeting their needs. And obviously, Joe really has a full-time job because now he's gone from being a policeman to a full-time farmer. So my next question to them was, tell me, how is your daughter? They have one daughter. And your two grandsons, which happen to be 8 and 2. And they said, things are going well. They're looking at even thinking about building another home on their property, which a lot of folks do.
A family compound.
Which is kind of a fun concept, something that some of us suburbanites really don't understand or have never been exposed to. But what happened here was that I also asked them, are you providing any support financially, either formally or informally, to them each year? And it isn't unusual that this might happen, whether it's, helping out with maybe auto repairs or possibly helping out with schooling or things like that. And what did we find, babe?
We found out that Joe and Sally are helping to the tune of about $1,500 a month to help put their grandchildren through private school at the local church.
Yeah, and that was interesting because, there obviously are options that are available to Joe and Sally to reduce their taxable federal income. And really, these are things that they hadn't considered.
Right, and the great thing here is we might be able to help them become more tax efficient without changing what they're actually doing. So we just want to get in sync with what they're doing, and then maybe we can find some ways to help them. Maybe we're taking it from a different bucket, or we're doing it slightly differently, but we're not changing what their current plans are.
And so, as you folks have probably got to know over the years, I tend to think of myself as having a decent sense of humor. So my first question to Joe was, well, can your grandson hold a shovel? He's 8 years old. And if he can, and I'm sure he's out there helping Grandpa.
Put him to work.
Well, he's already being put to work, but my question is, why isn't he on the payroll? Obviously your grandson is on a lower income tax bracket than you. You're obviously helping him, right? You're obviously helping him, or he's helping you. And learning.
Or they're helping each other. It's mutual.
The joys of the toils of the family farm. But, giving him earned income will reduce your income taxes. And frankly, since he's in a lower tax bracket, guess what? There'll be more money there and available to pay that family tuition that you're paying right now, for him obviously being in preschool. Alternatively, if school wasn't necessarily part of their budget, well, wouldn't it be neat to start making contributions to somebody's retirement account? Can be done. They're lifting that shovel, maybe to a Roth IRA or possibly to a traditional IRA for them. And we know that we can basically go up to 100% of earned income for him, or approximately $6,000.
That's right.
So,
and, just to kind of build on that a little bit outside of the tax implications, which would, one, potentially completely reduce his taxable income, or if you've decided to use a Roth, you may have, started his retirement planning at 8 years old. How cool would that have been if you had started doing that before you were 10? But I just met with a couple of clients that have done just that, and they take it a step further, which is, the grandkids are on the payroll, but in addition to that, they're helping direct their own investments, which means they talk to Grandma and Grandpa, and they come to decisions as to what they're going to invest in. And sometimes it's, they went on the Disney cruise or used another cruise line, so maybe that's a fun thing to invest in. Or, they love their iPad or iPhone, so they're familiar with Apple. So it might be a great way to start engaging them in a broader financial context by including them on what you're choosing when you're making those investments for them too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously people become more engaged when it's their money. So, again, this is something that frankly every business owner should be considering, especially if their children or grandchildren are working with them. And frankly, this can even be further generalized. And I have this conversation all the time with folks that are adult. Usually it's the men, male business owners. No, most of my friends are guys. That's just the way it is. But my question is, your wife, who is your primary, maybe your biggest cheerleader and primary support mechanism, is she performing services for the business, and is she being compensated directly for those?
And that could be really valuable, especially for an adult, because that means that they're still paying into Social Security. So you might be potentially bumping up or creating a Social Security benefit for them.
Well, sure. And the other thing is that they're also eligible for retirement plan contributions. So why not enhance Uncle Sam wants you to do it. They have earned income. They certainly can make, as Aaron was saying before, the limits change, but they have an opportunity. If you have a 401k, they could put aside really almost $25,000 a year, especially if they're over the age of 50 with a catch-up contribution. In many situations, especially small businesses, if they're using a simple IRA, Well, we're talking about making contributions up to and in excess of $13,000 a year.
Right.
So doing what you're doing today and maybe doing a little more efficiently and effectively is something to think about. And, it was kind of fun here, honey, at the end of this conversation that I had with these folks was, well, I have one other question. Does your accountant know what's going on?
Always important to keep them in the loop.
Right. Exactly. And I suggested to them, I said, look, your accountant is somebody that really wants to help you on a planning perspective. They all do. But the problem is, in many cases, you maybe relegated them to just being
the stenographer.
Your bookkeeper. Exactly. So before you make any of these changes, talk to your accountant, have a suggestion, and even further, maybe talk to them in this particular case. I suggest that they might even consider the possibility of a family limited partnership, which is taking this real estate property and reorganizing it into an LLC as compared to a sole proprietorship, where what's kind of neat here is that you basically have two levels of stock. One is the general, basically the general, and then also the limited partners. And what happens is you can then gift those shares to children or grandchildren as a way of also gifting out the income interest from the properties as well, even if they're not working there.
So it's important to keep in mind the general partners are the ones that make the decision, so those most likely would be grandma and grandpa, potentially.
Right. Your
children might be part of the general partnership depending upon the structure of your business, and then the grandchildren or other family members might become limited partners where they're able to accept income that's generated from the business, but they do not have the same voting interest that the general partners do.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, this concept can really be generalized in a lot of different ways. Many of our clients, as an example, happen to be big HGTV watchers, and probably even before HGTV became popular, where they're owning residential real estate properties. They're remodeling these and creating rental income. Maybe you're an owner that owns a building that's appreciating in value. Wouldn't it be neat to be able to not only pass on some of that appreciation, but also the income interests to those folks that you love? I mean, and the bottom line here is that if you're helping them financially in any way, shape, or form, if they're cash flowing money to them now, well, here's a smart way to do it, right? You're probably in a higher tax bracket than they are, and just doing things a little more effectively can just increase your family wealth.
That's right. I think now it's time for us to take our first break of the hour.
That's great. And we may have some questions on this, and you may have other questions on your mind. We'd love to hear from you. 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back after these messages.
Don't miss the boats. It's the only boat show in St. Louis this year. The St. Charles Boat Show. Thursday, March 3rd through Sunday, March 6th. With recreational boats, boating accessories, and big winter savings on all brands of new 2022 personal watercraft, tritoons, runabouts, high-performance boats, luxury yachts, and more. Register for a free $1,000 gas giveaway at the show. Get more info at stcharlesboatshow.com. This is the only one. The Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealer St. Charles Boat Show, March 3rd through 6th.
Experience, dedication, and results. That's what you'll get with the Simon Law Firm. In their 22-year history, they've been consistently named one of the nation's best law firms by U.S. News and one of the nation's winningest firms by the National Law Journal. They've earned more than $1 billion in verdicts and settlements, from personal injury to intellectual property to consumer fraud, and have the resources and expertise to handle your case with the personalized counsel and support you deserve. Visit SimonLawPC.com to meet the team. Proud to support the Backstoppers on KTRS.
The choice of an attorney is an important one and should not be based solely on advertising.
Looking for something different to try out? The Quarter Restaurant and Bar, located in downtown Belleville, was voted #1 in the Metro East for Best New Restaurant in 2021. Known for our New Orleans-inspired dishes with food for all taste buds, you're sure to find something for the whole group. We have a variety of beers on tap and huge hurricanes for that extra boost. Come enjoy a bit of New Orleans for your next dining experience. Come visit the Quarter Restaurant and Bar, located at 126 East Main Street in downtown Belleville, Illinois. For operating hours and menu, go to quarterrestaurant.com.
Hi, this is Hannah, Director of First Impressions with Siva King. If you have one truck, a fleet of trucks, or simply need your equipment filled, stop by and fill your tank with us. We are less expensive than retail convenience stores. Our address is 4636 Waldo Industrial Drive in High Ridge, Missouri. Call us at 636-677-4355 or view our website at sivakinginc.com. Buy your fuel from us and your hot dogs from someone else. On time, every time. If you need it delivered 24/7 to run your business, you need it delivered by Siva King.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back on the Big 550 KTRS. It's 9:36, and thanks so much for joining us for our 2-hour show this morning. Hopefully we're getting some calls as well as texts. You know, you can call in at 931-5877 or text us at 84126, the exclusive and Aaron-controlled KTRS text line.
That's right. And you know what? There's one thing that I forgot to mention this morning. This evening, I will be at the annual Carney's Kids event at Ameristar Casino to, celebrate John Carney's fundraiser.
And it's fabulous. Now, John, he gives money to, I don't know, maybe a dozen or more local charities. All of them are really based upon things to benefit kids that have issues, right?
That's right, health or otherwise.
And this has been going on for a long time, and we're really happy to be a sponsor. And we love John, and best of luck to him. And raise a lot of money tonight, John.
That's right. Come say hello, because I'll be at the table. Someone else will be on their journey back to St. Louis.
Exactly. So eat a lot for me.
We'll do our very best. We have two great topics. Which one are we going to get to? Our rock stars of the week, or I know long-term care has been on many people's minds recently, so we have a nice discussion with Paula on that.
Well, that sounds fun, honey. But I do want, before we get to those, what I'd like to do is I did get an email earlier this morning from Tom, who's one of our clients, and he says, Jeff, I'm turning 72 this year. What are the key dates I need to know about taking my first RMD? And so, what's important here, Tom, is to understand that your RMD is going to be based upon your account value, that is all of your IRAs, not the Roth ones, but only the traditional ones, and or your 401k if you're still participating in one, the date of what the value was on 12/31 of 2021. You will have to take out that required minimum distribution, which each individual plan sponsor will tell you. And with our clients, what we do is we add them all up, and during our coaching sessions, which we're having now with clients, we're calling them and saying, hey, this is how much we have to give you this year, and how do you want to take it?
That's
and
right.
There are lots of ways that they can take it, right?
There definitely are lots of ways they can take it, but one important thing to note is in the first year that you turn 72, you do have the option, if it makes sense for you, to push your required minimum distribution to the next year. So in Tom's case, he's turning 72 in 2022. He can push his 2022 distribution into 2023, but then he will have to take two in 2023, both the 2022 required minimum distribution and then the 2023 one as well. This might make sense for some individuals if you happen to still be a high income earner and you're planning to retire in 2022, or maybe you sold a property and you have a large taxable gain, because we know the housing market has been hot and heavy lately. So you definitely want to chat with your tax preparer before you make a decision on something that could be potentially very significant to your income tax situation. But that is a little loophole that you have available to you. what we do with the clients every year, just like my dad said, is we first like to chat with all of the RMD babies, which are the people newly turning 72. We try and chat with them as early in the year as possible, because what we do is we total up what the requirement is. It's a little bit less than 4% of your pre-tax retirement account assets. If you happen to be married, it's just focused on you as the individual that's turning 72. It's not across all of you and your spouse's accounts. If you happen to be taking distributions, if you're working with us, we can calculate that and say your requirement is X, you're taking Y. That might leave a deficit, meaning that might leave more for you to take. We'll say, would you like us to increase your monthly distribution so by December 31st you've hit the requirement? Or we can send you that excess in a lump sum. Is it, around Christmas time because you'd like a little extra money for Christmas presents? Or is it when taxes become due because you don't necessarily escrow your taxes anymore for your property? Or is it some other time you might be taking a vacation, something along those lines? If you don't necessarily have a need to consume all or part of your required minimum distribution, in a lot of cases what we're doing is we're taking that from your traditional IRA account and moving it into an after-tax vehicle. Usually it's a joint account because for many of our clients, by the time they've reached 72, they no longer have earned income. So, Roth contributions, things like that won't be accessible any longer. So we take the required minimum distribution, we withhold the taxes, send those off to the federal and state government, and then the net amount can be reinvested in an after-tax account and continue to grow for you.
Yeah, and Tom, of course, had a follow-up question, as many of our clients do, which was, well, my RMD for 2022 is going to be about $11,000. Is there anything that I can do to reduce the amount that's being reported to me as taxable income? And Tom, there is some good news. And again, this is another one of those things where maybe we can do something a little bit more tax effectively that you're already doing. Now, in Tom's situation, he was a rock star. He currently didn't have a mortgage, so he wasn't able to itemize his deductions, which meant that his charitable contributions really weren't going to be fully deductible. So I asked him, I said, Tom, are you and your wife, do you support a church or temple? Are there any other charities like Carney's Kids that you might be supporting during the year? And it was interesting is that he mentioned that we send about $2,000 a year to the church, and we also have several other charities, including Carney's Kids, that total about $3,000. So between those, his total charitable contributions were about $5,000 a year. If he permits us, i.e. LPL as his custodian, to send those contributions directly to those charities for him without him getting the money first, what happens is we can actually reduce the taxable amount that's reported dollar for dollar. So in his particular case, if we send all of those contributions for him, the $11,000 will be reduced by $5,000, so that his actual distributions, taxable distribution, will only be reported at about $6,000.
Right, and mechanically the way that works is every time you'd like to make a distribution from a retirement account that's going to a third party, so it's not going to your bank account or your address of record, you have to sign on that. But for our clients, because we know what churches and charities they've donated to in the past, we keep a record of that, and during our conversation, we just ask them, are the contributions the same this year? Are you letting it ride? Do you want to make some changes? And then we can prepare that on an annual basis for them so they can stay on track with their charitable contributions without having to make any changes to what they're giving. It's just maybe down the line they'll be able to give a little bit more, or they're at least able to reduce their taxable liability for themselves when the RMDs begin.
Yeah, and I would think that one other point I'd like to make here for everybody is that the Internal Revenue Service doesn't require you to take the required minimum distribution amount for each IRA account that you have. They only require that you take the total amount from all the IRAs that you have. Now, this obviously doesn't include beneficiary IRAs, which really the IRS doesn't
completely separate.
But like in Tom's case, he had two different IRA accounts, and we determined that $11,000 initially before we did the charitable distributions, would be done from one of the IRAs instead of the other one. And there were obviously could be various reasons. One of his IRA accounts happened to have had certificates of deposit which were maturing, so why would we want to create any penalties necessarily in pulling out capital and breaking those? But there could be various reasons why you might want to do that. But again, that's important. So
right. So basically, the IRS doesn't say you have to take proportionally from each traditional IRA account. Just once you've determined the total, in Tom's case, $11,000, it has to come from somewhere, from one of the accounts at the very least, because essentially the IRS would just like their money. Now, if you have beneficiary IRAs, if you happen to be an individual that has more than one beneficiary IRA, meaning they came from different individuals, the IRS does require that you take from each of those every year in the amount that is required, and that's because those requirements are slightly different than when you turn 72 and have your own required minimum distributions.
And I would tell you that even though it sounds a little complicated, frankly, it's a lot of fun, because it gives us an opportunity to not only really design the distributions for them, whether they're taking cash or not, whether they're reinvesting cash or not, whether they're making distributions to charities or not, but really help them custom make those. And so it's like everything else. Make the process easy, it reduces stress, and frankly, I think you can get the things that you want to have done for that. And obviously, it also helps you bypass that really terrible penalty that the IRS currently imposes if you don't take what you're supposed to take, right?
That's right. You have to 50% of what you should have taken. So in Tom's case, that would be $5,500 is the initial penalty. You got to get that from somewhere. So if you pull it for your IRA, well, that's taxable. Then you have to take the full required minimum distribution too. If you could step away from your mic a little bit, Dad, we can hear your breathing significantly.
Okay.
But you know what? We'll let you correct that technical issue while we take our second break of the hour.
Well, great. So we'll be right back after these messages. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Cold winds are blowing through St. Louis this February, and it's National Window Replacement Month. So that obviously means it's time for new windows and patio doors from Renewal by Anderson. Call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com. Mention KTRS and get 25% off all windows and patio doors. No money down, no payments, and zero interest for 2 years. Their Fibrex material is 2 times stronger than vinyl. Renewal has 9 exterior color options and the nation's best warranty. Call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com. Mention KTRS and get 25% off all windows and patio doors. No money down, no payments, and zero interest for 2 years. Renewal has received more J.D. Power awards for window and patio doors than any other brand. Keep old man winter at bay and call Renewal by Anderson at 877-WINDOWS or online at rbastl.com.
Hey, KTRS listeners, Roger Wigginton here at Don Rogers Limited, 6727 West Main in Belleville. You know, for over 45 years, we've been one of the premier men's and women's apparel boutiques in the St. Louis market. We know how to fit men and women. We know what men and women like, especially in denim. In our men's store, we carry a great line of men's jeans called Grand River, stretching the waistband, and as a result, most guys go down a full size. As a result, they fit better in the seat and in the legs. In our ladies department, we carry French dressing, Ethel, Tribal, Charlie B, great lines of jeans. We carry the traditional fly front, belt loop style, but our big seller are the pull-on ankle jeans. So if you want to come back to a store where you get great service, wonderful selection, come to Don Rogers Limited in Belleville, Illinois.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jbl ellisfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Oh, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. It's 9:50 here on the Big 550 KTRS, Talk Radio St. Louis. By the way, that was the dog. That wasn't me, honey.
That was the dog. You know what? It's a family show. Everyone participates, even the family dog.
Exactly. So I apologize if I sound a little winded this morning. Well, that's great. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. They're a little quiet this morning. 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
That's right. Where are we going now, Captain?
Well, you've got the comm, Mr. Savick, so go ahead and take us out.
Well, you know what? We've received our first text question. Excellent timing. Thank you. Do you work with clients who have an advisor, which we have had for the past 10 years, and are not inclined to change? Unfortunately, it sounds like you're in a situation where you're happy with your advisor, so we would not want to take that relationship from you. We generally prefer to be your only advisor, just like you generally have one primary care physician that helps direct your care. We work with other specialists like tax planning professionals, attorneys that help with estate planning documents, any other professionals that we might need to bring in for your particular situation. However, the way that we earn our fee is through the management of your assets. And the way that we help to plan is by making sure that we can see a full picture of your assets, because if we're responsible for helping you plan that income stream, we need to be able to have all of the ingredients to make the pie for you.
And I would only add to that many of our clients, and I would say maybe the majority, had other advisors before they came to see us. And that's an important decision that they have to make. So if you're thinking about it, you got to come in and visit. And as we like to say, first of all, we'd never take toys from boys if you're doing it yourself.
Or if you have someone that's controlling the toy for you already.
Exactly. But if you're in a good relationship with the advisor that you have, I think that getting a second opinion probably isn't really necessary for you. But if you're not real happy, or you don't know that if you're not happy, then we'd love to visit with you. And frankly, I think that our webinar that we have coming up on March the 10th, that's the right day, right, baby?
That is the right. That would be a great opportunity for you to hear about what services we provide, how we work with our clients, so you can get a good feel. And what we always say to individuals that come to see us that already have advisors is you might want to go back and chat with your current advisor, see if they're meeting your expectations. Maybe they don't know that you have other questions, other needs that need to be met. You might want to give them the opportunity to meet your expectations before you make that switch. Or if you know that you're working with someone that helps you to get you to where you are, and now it's time to make the transition to a distribution-oriented advisor versus an accumulation one, then the webinar on Thursday would be a great opportunity for you to hear what we have to offer.
Yeah, and I think, honey, the problem here, and maybe this is the core question our texter might have had, is that all advisors aren't trained the same way. They don't provide also the same level of services. We naturally talk about all the things that we do, hopefully every week. And if you're not getting what you need, the question is, what are you paying for? So let's let that one go. But that was a good text question. We do appreciate that one.
And you know what? We have Don on line 1 who has a question about a backdoor Roth IRA.
Super.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, Don.
Okay, good. Good, thank you. I was curious. I did a couple of backdoor Roth IRAs for 2021. I was wondering if that's something I could continue to do in 2022. My income limits any Roth contributions through conventional channels.
Yes, they have not closed the door completely on the backdoor Roth. So you are able to continue those contributions. You probably, if you were working with a tax professional to help determine, staying within a particular income bracket, so you don't have any excessive taxes when you do that, is probably a good idea to continue to do that as, income limits change and things like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that question probably came. I was only going to say I'm sure that came up because there has been discussions about closing those.
Yes.
And that's something that you certainly might want to consider doing early in the year, Dawn, to make sure that you don't come under the wire if they do decide to make those changes, which they typically do on backdoor things. We don't really hear about it on the front end, but on this one we've gotten a heads up. So
they should be able to they would grandfather you in if you had already taken care of it for the year, and then they make the change. But you don't want to be stuck, like my dad said, 3 days after they make the decision you were wanting to execute that transition.
Do you have a follow-up question, Don?
He does not, because he's already gone, but we have Denise on line 2 who has a question about the stock market.
Hi. I'm invested with you guys, and I'm kind of worried about what's going on over in Europe and what's going to happen with the stocks that you have invested. Are we pulling money out? What are we doing?
Do you want me to kick this one off, Dad, or you want to take it away?
Absolutely, sweetie.
Okay, well, I would say to start, we've made the decision thus far not to make any changes in our client accounts. There are a few reasons for that. First of all, we mechanically rebalance our client accounts every 6 months, at the end of June and at the end of December, which happened to work out very nicely for us this time around, as we made some strategic changes to our portfolio in December that we think will fare well once we start to see a recovery in the market. And then secondly, if any individuals we're working with were taking monthly income or had an income need between January and the end of June of this year, we already set that money aside in cash. So that way you can live off of the gains of last year. We don't have to make any sales into negative markets in order to create that income for you. So we're going to be able to allow the assets to continue to rehabilitate from this past market drawdown. I would say, like my dad says, we are not prognosticators, but we try to have a little insight into what we think is going to happen with the market. I would say that, in my opinion, the current unrest in Russia and the Ukraine is terrible to watch, but I personally feel the majority of the market volatility is due to these interest rate increases that are pending March 15th. I think we'll see a lot more calm in the market once we've gotten through our first Fed meeting, and once they've made their first decision, they might give us a little bit more insight as to the road ahead. The market really doesn't like uncertainty, and right now it's uncertain. Are we going to have a 0.25% rate hike? Are we going to have a 0.5% rate hike? How many for the year? What are they thinking? We'll get a lot more information on that in the next 2 weeks. I'd also say, from a technical perspective, over Thursday and Friday, we saw the market retest the January 28th low and aggressively bounce off of that. Now, that doesn't mean the volatility is over, but that means hopefully we're looking at an upward movement as opposed to more aggressive downward movements. But we'll have to, unfortunately, just as everything else, we'll have to wait and see.
I think that was good, babe. The only thing I would also add to this is that the uncertainty that we're seeing in regard to interest rates is something that is not going to be solved quickly. One of the Fed's charges is to deal with inflation, and the way that they deal with inflation is by raising interest rates. The idea here is when we raise interest rates, borrowing becomes more expensive, and therefore that trickles down through the system in terms of higher borrowing costs, make it more difficult for people to get mortgages. It makes it more difficult and a little more expensive for businesses to borrow money. 0.25% or 0.5% of an interest rate change is not going to curb the type of inflation that we have right now.
Right, so it's definitely going to be a long-term thing. Unfortunately, we have to take our next break for the top of the hour. We'll be right back.
The home of John Carney.
I think we just go with that.
KTRS AM, FM 1061, K291CW St. Louis.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. Ukrainian military leaders say they have killed thousands of Russian troops invading the country. U.S. defense officials say Russian forces are facing more resistance than expected as they move towards the capital, Kyiv. Retired Marine Colonel Steve Ganyard, an ABC News contributor, says Russia's strategy is also in question.
If you look at what's going on in Kyiv, it's very strange. They're committing troops piecemeal. It's hard to understand. They're sending them down roads. They're not going off-road. They're being picked off by the Ukrainian military.
Thousands of Ukrainians are trying to leave the country, but men ages 18 to 60 are not allowed to leave.
The wait at Ukraine's border with Slovakia is hours. The conflict has driven tens of thousands of Ukrainians from their homes. To protect those left behind, the mayor of Lviv called for 24-hour civilian patrols. Get your weapon ready, he said. If not, prepare some Molotov cocktails. And sure enough, we found a group of guys in a ditch filling bottles with gasoline. We're setting a checkpoint, this man told us, just to be prepared. He stood near a stack of tires and a pile of sandbags, determined to protect his neighborhood from the Russian army. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, Lviv.
President Biden authorized an additional $350 million in defense aid to Ukraine. He also Friday introduced his nominee for the Supreme Court, 51-year-old D.C. Circuit Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I am truly humbled by the extraordinary honor of this nomination.
She's the first black woman nominated to the court. The CDC Friday introduced new guidance for COVID-19, now asserting risk at the county level is low, medium, or high. Brown University's Dr. Ashish Jha explains the change.
We're in a different place than we were 2 years ago, that most Americans are either vaccinated or have been previously infected.
This means about 70% of people live in areas where masks are not recommended. You're listening to ABC News.
Great news from Rocket Mortgage. You could unlock more cash than you realize from your home's equity with a cash-out refinance today. In fact, in the last year, average home values have gone up nearly 20%. That means you could unlock thousands of dollars. And with Rocket Mortgage, you could unlock all that cash in less than 3 weeks. But you've got to act right now before rates go up, because nobody knows how long these low rates will last. Put your hard-earned money to work. Make your life better. Build a home office. Remodel your kitchen. Or simply save that cash for a rainy day. Today's rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.25%, 3.48% APR, so you can lock in a great low monthly payment. When you're looking to unlock the cash in your home, Rocket can. Call 833-8ROCKET today or go to rocketmortgage.com to get started. That's 833-8ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com. Rocket. Rates current as of 12/12/21. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Call 800-490-1233 for disclosures and cost information.
Dozens of British Airways flights out of Heathrow Airport in London were canceled today, the second straight day of disruptions because of what the airline calls technical issues that have impacted booking and check-in systems. The airline says it's not a cyber attack, but being caused by hardware problems. Requests for self-administered medication to induce abortion has skyrocketed in Texas.
The increase happening in the wake of Texas's passage of a bill that bans most abortions after 6 weeks. Aid Access, a nonprofit that provides telehealth abortion-related services, reporting that requests for self-managed medication abortion increased 1,180% in the week following the passage of the bill. Daily requests slowed over subsequent weeks, but are still averaging 147% higher than prior to the bill's passage.
That's ABC's Dave Packer. Major League Baseball's imposed a Monday deadline for a new labor deal to avoid delaying the start of the regular season.
If there's a chance of starting the Major League Baseball season on time, both sides of the negotiating table need to come through this weekend with a deal. On Friday, they took a first step forward, nearing an agreement on some issues, propelled by a surprise one-on-one meeting between Commissioner Rob Manfred and union head Tony Clark. But ESPN senior MLB insider Jeff Passan says neither side seems ready to compromise.
What we're doing is waiting for one side to make a big move, and both sides are like, well, no, the other one needs to do it. No, the other one needs to do it.
Talks will continue today as Major League Baseball has set a Monday deadline.
That's ABC's Todd Ant. This is ABC News.
God, I'm so stressed. It's a brand new year and our business is busier than ever.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 35 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Starts at $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Visit Ooma.com. That's OOMA.com to learn more. Ooma. Smart communications for the smarter business.
Brian Clark, ABC News.
Now, back to Straight Talk on retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. We're in hour number 2, just starting. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 931-5877 star. I'm sorry, I have that memorized. Or 84126 from the Aaron monitored text line.
Well, we do have, which is great, a text question that came in during the break. We also have Frank in the studio today, too.
Well, that's fabulous. Before we get to Frank, I'd like to go back and touch on Denise's call.
Sure.
That we had a couple minutes ago. Because I don't think we really had an opportunity to fully vet this one.
Sure.
At the end of the day, this market right now is messy.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've seen a lot of significant growth in the last 3 years. So these numbers we're seeing the Dow going up 500 or 600, going down 500 or 600, seem like they're really large numbers, but obviously as a percentage, they're much lower. As advisors, as Aaron said very well, we aren't prognosticators. We don't know where the market's going. That isn't our job. Preserve, protect, and prudently grow is what our job is. So what we have to ask ourselves, and hopefully your advisors are asking themselves, is this a pothole or is it a crater? Is it time to get out or move some of our money to the sidelines or not? And I would say at this point that it's too early really to make that determination. If you haven't rebalanced your portfolio, the markets have done it for you, which is kind of nice. At the same time, anytime that we see these corrections, they generally reverse themselves, usually within a 3 to 5 month period, and they usually lead to much higher returns in the future. One thing that we're thinking about, obviously the markets are looking at, is with oil, is whether the higher price of oil are going to lead us into a recession. And my thought here is no. We've lived with these prices before. Our president certainly has some decisions that he can make to open up the valves so we can increase energy production to make up for punishing Russia when it comes to European oil consumption, as well as taking us from importing 500 million barrels to zero, because we were actually at zero about a year plus ago. So lots of questions out here, but at the end of the day, volatility is truly the price that we pay for the chance of higher returns. So hold on to your hats. It's going to be a little volatile, but we know we're going to come out on the other side.
That's right. And to get a little bit more perspective about us, a texter asked if we could repeat our Zoom meeting information. Of course, it's going to be at 11 a.m. on March the 10th. You can gain access if you happen to have received our email invitation. Another will come out in the next week, followed by a few more. Or you're welcome to send me an email, aaron@jblfinancial.com. Or you can go to the website, jblfinancial.com, and click on the Contact Us section and just request a spot reserved, and we will send that link out to you on March 9th and the morning of March 10th.
Sounds fabulous. Are we wanting to go to Fabulous Frank, our in-house Medicare expert?
Yes, we are. Before we kick off our smart choices about your health care, I'd just like to mention that insurance products are offered through LPL Financial or its licensed affiliates. Frank is solely an insurance-only representative. It does not provide any financial advice or services. That's us. All right. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Frankie.
Well, today I wanted to talk about something that I know we've talked about and we've discussed before on the show.
Sure.
But I think it's really important, especially at a time right now when folks really don't know when they're going to be retiring and things like that. They have an idea, but maybe they maybe they don't know a specific date, but I think it's important to know exactly what that process is for that SEP, for that special enrollment period.
Right. We have a lot of people that feel like retiring, there might be a hang up for them because of their health insurance. They have to do it at a certain time if they're already over 65 years old, or they don't want to retire because they're concerned about expenses. So I think this is a very timely conversation, because if you are someone that's your only hurdle is health insurance, this might help get you past it.
Excellent. And I was in the office the other day, and of course, Kelly transferred me a call from an already client of ours, Marcia. Now, Marcia's 69. She has been on Medicare A and B since 2018, folks. So she has already had her Medicare Part A and B coupled with her employer's coverage.
Okay.
So since she's kept that for the last 4 or so years, we know that she is eligible to use her SEP, her special enrollment period. So she came to me and she asked, she's planning on retiring around April, end of April, into May, something like that. So she needed to know, when should she get her Medicare coverage started? How long would her employer's coverage last her until? And if she should even, get on Medicare right away or go ahead and do something like COBRA.
Sure.
So the first thing that I addressed with her is that since she has had that credible coverage through her employer, she is not going to be penalized by Medicare whatsoever, because she kept on to that employer's coverage, although she does have A and B.
And so mechanically, her A and B coverage is technically secondary to her employer's plan.
And that is absolutely correct. And that's some of the misconception that I think a lot of people have when they have A and B coupled with that employer's coverage, is they think since they do have Medicare alongside of their employer's coverage, they think that Medicare is going to be primary. In reality, that Medicare A and B with your employer's coverage is actually your secondary coverage.
So the way it kind of works is, Marcia has a claim. She submits it to her employer's plan, or it's automatically submitted to her employer's plan. And when it passes through her employer's plan, if Medicare will receive it. When they receive it, if the employer plan paid 80% of the actuarial value of the claim, which is determined by the insurance company and then determined by Medicare, depending upon your employer's plan, Medicare's not going to pay anything.
That's right. And the unfortunate part is that she's still paying the Part B premium.
Got ya.
So she's still paying $170.10 this year for that Part B premium. Of course, last year before is that $148.50. However, this year she's still paying that, and she's not even receiving the full benefit of having that Part A and B.
Which is why, in most cases, this is not how we would structure your benefits. If you'd come to us to ask, I'm turning 65, do I need to go on to Medicare? We would help you determine if that's something you needed to do based on your employer's plan, based on your current employment status. But because this already has been going on for several years, we're not going to move things all around, because we already know she's about to retire sometime this year.
Yes, and I think you make a really good point. A lot of people just don't know that they can get on to Medicare full time when they turn 65 and continue to work with their employer.
Sure.
They don't necessarily have to select Medicare and retire at the same time.
Right. So one can happen before or after the other. You definitely want to work with a professional to determine what the best option is for you.
Yes. So moving along, we know that she's not going to have a penalty. We know that she's eligible for that SEP, that special enrollment period. Now, when she comes on to Medicare now, things are going to look a lot differently than when she had her employer's coverage. So we know that the employer's coverage was her primary and Medicare A and B was her secondary. Now it's going to flip. Now it's going to look like her A and B will be her primary. And depending on whether we do traditional Medicare or Medicare Advantage, that could be up to 80% coverage with her A and B on traditional Medicare. Okay. So she's in a really good position because alongside that SEP, she's able to pick any plan that she wants without any sort of health questions or underwriting process as well.
And the reason she has this special election is because she'll be leaving her employer-based plan. So when you lose coverage, when you're dropped from coverage potentially, when your spouse retires and you lose coverage that way, when you leave the service area, meaning potentially you move, those are all reasons that you would be eligible for a special election.
Absolutely. And I think that is an absolutely great point that you make there, is that you get these special election periods not just from being on employers coverage, but from things that you mentioned as well. So Medicare is going to allow you to have these enrollment periods without any sort of penalty and coming on with no exceptions, no pre-existings really matter in that situation.
Right. You're going to have what's called guarantee issue, which means as long as you follow the rules and enroll in a timely manner, you won't have to go through medical underwriting. And I think that's always important to point out about Medicare, which is it really is very flexible. You just have to stay within the rules. So making sure that you're planning in advance before you make changes will help you stay within the timelines that are set out by Medicare.
Absolutely. And again, this is a case where she was looking at retiring in April or May. So maybe that coverage, maybe her employer's coverage, although she would retire at the end of April, we have to think about, okay, well, how much longer is that employer's coverage going to last?
Sure.
Will your employer's coverage continue to last you through the end of May? Sometimes you may see it another 30 days past the time that you retired. So it may extend into June or something like that.
So that's important information to collect, which is just calling your HR department and asking, when I leave work, how long does my coverage last? Like Frank mentioned, some employers will extend coverage for multiple months. Maybe you're in a special situation where you are retiring and they're offering to continue coverage for you for a certain amount of time. We just want to know what those dates are. There are also employers that will terminate your coverage the day you leave work. So if you leave April 15th, now you're in limbo potentially for 15 days. We want to make sure that we line everything up appropriately for you. So coming armed with a little bit of information in addition to that questionnaire that medical questionnaire that we send out in advance will definitely help us set up the timeline for you.
Absolutely. And I think that if you're looking to retire, if you have questions about it, I think around 4 to 3 months is a good time frame to kind of get in contact with me and let me know so that we can address those questions of, how much longer after you retire is your employer's coverage going to last you? When do we need our effective date set up for Medicare? Things like that we want to be ahead of.
And also what that's going to do is give you, the individual, the opportunity to take some time to think about what plan you might select. Are you going to select the Medicare Advantage plan or a supplemental option that Frank will lay out for you during the coaching session? And as opposed to having to make a decision in the moment, you very well may come up with your decision in the moment, but there's no pressure to do so. You'll have a little bit of time to think about it even before we need to send the applications out to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I guess kind of to wrap this up, I did want to talk about maybe some advantages for folks that are 65 and they don't have Medicare yet, but they do have their employer's coverage.
Sure.
So I think that it should always be an option to come on to Medicare.
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to be retired in order to select Medicare, and your employer doesn't need to know when you retire as well.
Correct.
Whenever you get on to Medicare. I know a lot of people come to me and they say, Frank, I don't really necessarily want my employer knowing that I'm thinking
retirement.
thinking about Medicare because they're going to think that I'm retiring.
Right.
They don't have to know. You can go to your employer and just tell them, hey, I'm Medicare eligible, and I would like to check out my Medicare options.
I mean, just a couple of days ago, I spoke with someone where, the individual is retired. They're on their spouse's policy. It's costing $600 a month. For her to be on the employer plan with her spouse, well, she might be a great candidate for someone to say, like, I'd rather just jump onto Medicare as opposed to keeping the employer plan through my husband's through my husband's employer, because automatically we know that the Medicare Part B premium is going to be significantly less than $600 a month, and that's without even comparing the benefits between what Medicare will offer and what the employer-based plan will offer. So it does depend on your situation. If you want to check, Frank's a great person to chat with. You can email him, Franklin, Frank L-I-N, at jblfinancial.com. You can always call the office. Kelly will get you right to Frank, 314-863-0008.
That was a really nice segment, guys. And I was going to say, as you know, I'm about 6 months away from Medicare eligibility. And the one takeaway that I took from this was that if you are enrolled in a plan and you're getting your employer plan and you're getting inundated with stuff from various insurance companies, insurance agencies about enrolling in Part B, and you even get that Part B enrollment in the mail, or I guess you get your card, etc. You don't have to enroll in Part B, and I think that was a mistake that this lady made.
Yes.
Because she had employer coverage.
That's very true. And so maybe we can help you avoid some of the pitfalls, or we can help you save a little bit of money if you happen to be in a situation where maybe you're working for a small employer and it is costly for you to have their health insurance, or in order for the employer to save a bit of money, they've had to raise your deductible significantly, so you might get better benefits on Medicare. It really is an individual situation, and that's why we're here to help.
Great segment. And you know, this decision is really another part of the algebra problem of retirement. You know, how much am I paying? How much is it going to cost me? What's my out-of-pocket expense? Is it pre-tax, after-tax? And so sitting down with an expert before you're making these decisions, especially because it doesn't cost you anything, really makes sense to do. So, again, Frank, so much for your time this morning.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Frank, so much for your time.
That's what I heard, too.
All right,
excellent. We do have a text.
I can't kick all the children off at the same time because you're in the station. So
right, we have all
Franklin.
the control. Exactly. You know, I have a text question from one of our favorite listeners, Judy, that I would like to read this morning. Good morning. I have a cash balance plan at work that we have discussed in the past. My question is, when I officially retire, can I roll it into my Roth IRA, and will I have to pay taxes if I do? So you can roll it into the Roth. However, you will pay taxes on the full amount if we do it that way. Our thought would be, just like if you're an individual that has any type of pre-tax account with your employer, so that's a 403B, a 401k, that's a traditional 401k, a 457 plan, anything along those lines, you want to roll it into another pre-tax account. So we're going from like account to like account, which would be a non-taxable transfer. So it'll go directly from the custodian where the cash balance plan is held to your custodian that holds your IRA account. You actually don't get to touch the money technically because the check will be made out to your IRA for the benefit of you. Only the custodian will be able to cash it into your pre-tax account. And then that way you only pay taxes when you actually take the money out in terms of an income need, or when you get to your required minimum distribution, or you just need a little cash.
Yeah, and we don't see this very often, but there are situations, and there's, Aaron, you just really mentioned the primary one, is that you may be wanting to have, if you don't at this point, have a bucket load of vault cash, as we like to think about it, after-tax cash, to help you with your needs. So in doing this, it still probably makes sense, because the transaction works out the same way, is to move that money directly into that traditional IRA first and then make a distribution, because the tax consequences are the same.
Exactly. But, there are some exceptions here, which would be if you are one of the lucky few, hopefully to be more in the future, that has access to a Roth 401k or another form of after-tax accumulation with your employer. That would be the opportunity to move it to an individual Roth account versus a traditional IRA. Because, again, what we want to do when you're moving accounts, whether it's from employers to banks, employers to your financial advisory firm, between investment advisors if you're making a change, you always want to transfer from like account to like account. That means pre-tax money goes to another pre-tax account, after-tax money or tax-deferred money goes into similar accounts. That way your transitions aren't creating taxable events for you. You get to control your taxes by making decisions after the fact.
Well, that was a great question. I know we have to go to our first break of the hour.
That's right. And when we get
Why don't
back,
we do
we'll
that?
be talking to Dorothy, who's been holding patiently on line one.
Dorothy, thank you so much. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Since 1928, the Karastan brand has been synonymous with luxury flooring.
And since 1939, Midwest Floor has been flooring St. Louis homes and businesses with quality Karastan flooring.
Today, Ambassador Midwest Floor brings you more experience with over 100 master craftsman installers.
Live beautifully with Ambassador Midwest Floor.
See the finest selection of Karastan carpet, wood, and luxury vinyl.
And save $500 off select floor styles.
Get the finest installation and experience more at Ambassador
Midwest Floor. With hard surface flooring so popular, people are searching for unique area rugs that stand out.
With the largest selection of luxurious Karastan carpet, Ambassador Midwest Floor can make a custom area rug for any space in your home.
Karastan is long-lasting, stylish, and easy to clean. The perfect carpet for families with kids and pets.
With hundreds of colors and textures, Ambassador Midwest Floor can make a custom area rug perfect for your home.
Shop Ambassador Midwest Floor for the finest selection of Karastan carpet.
And experience more at Ambassador
Midwest Floor.
Here's the deal. I've had constipation with belly pain, discomfort, and bloating for years. I've tried a lot of laxatives and fiber supplements, but my symptoms keep coming back.
You could have a chronic condition called irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives. It lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2 years old. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. There could be more to your story with IBS-C. Talk to a doctor today. Say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
The Inside Out Show with John Shea and David Sherwood.
John, I got aluminum wiring.
David, when's the best time to mulch?
Get your Inside Out questions ready and call 314-931-5877 or text to 84126.
Guys, I got a really big squirrel problem.
John Shea and David Sherwood. With the Inside Out Show every Saturday 11 to 1 on the Big 550 KTRS.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, it's almost 10:28 here on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And we're willing and waiting and wanting to answer your questions at 931-5877 or from our text line 84126. I know we've had Dorothy waiting through our break, so thank you so much.
Yes, I have a question about Missouri income tax for 2021. There is a line for a deduction for a long-term dignity savings account, and supposedly a single person could deduct up to $4,000, and two people up to $8,000. What is, and as I understand it, this is for money set aside for nursing home payments. where do you get a long-term dignity savings account, and what are the specifications?
I think that's a great question, but I'm not prepared to answer that one today.
Okay, so I am. I've used the power of the internet to confirm my thoughts. A long-term dignity savings account may be set up with a financial institution and must be designated in its entirety as a long-term dignity savings account. The account should be titled in the name of the owner, along with a designation that it is the long-term dignity savings account. A qualified beneficiary can be named, but the account owner has until April 15th of the following year, the tax year the account was established, to do so. So it sounds to me like this is a very specialized type of account that you'll want to either go to the bank, or if you're working with an investment professional, contact them to see if their firm offers these type of accounts. I can say that LPL Financial at this moment, which is our broker dealer, does not have access to these type of accounts. So you might want to start with the bank, or there are many other broker dealers out there. So if you happen to be working with another, I would contact them, because the IRS does require, as mentioned, that it be in a specified type of account. You just can't take your savings and set it aside and say this is for long-term care.
That sounds good, and I would also think that this would be something that would be valuable for someone that either is too old to access long-term care insurance if they hadn't received it, or maybe wasn't eligible to do so.
Exactly.
So that sounds great. I'm not sure what the tax ramifications are on the interest on that, but now we have something else to look up, right?
That's right. So that was just the very basics. We're definitely, as we don't typically deal with these type of accounts, we're not experts in this particular area. So that was just the very basics of what needs to happen in order to claim the deduction. The initial deduction, you have to have that type of account set up. You'll probably want to work with a tax professional to determine, just like my dad mentioned, how is the interest accrued, can you invest inside these types of accounts? Are you restricted to certain types of investments, no investment at all? For example, with HSA accounts, many custodians require that you hold at least $3,000 in cash, although you are eligible to invest that money to try and earn additional return for your health. Your long-term, not long-term, but your ongoing health expenses, co-pays to the doctor, premiums after you've left the plan, things of that nature. So it's important to get the specifics before you make a decision, because sometimes the tax benefit does not outweigh liquidity restrictions you might have, or limitations that are involved.
Very good. Good question. Do we have it? And I think you had mentioned earlier that we may have another text question in the queue here.
Did not mention that.
Okay.
We can move on to our next topic.
We certainly can, but our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Spoke with Paula the other day, and she mentioned to me that she and her husband are both 64 years old. Many of their friends are currently considering purchasing or have already purchased long-term care insurance.
What are Paula and her friends talking about? Like, what? We need some more exciting conversation than long-term care.
I don't know. I've been talking about rules and canasta, so I guess we're having a little more fun than Paula is.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if that sounds more fun.
And it's interesting because certainly there are some companies, not too many at this point, that have long-term care insurance accessible through their employer.
Right.
Other folks are looking at these, purchasing individually. And she mentioned that her friends have been throwing out numbers anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000 per year for the cost of coverage.
Wow.
Which is very expensive. And they felt like they needed, especially because her dad had gone through a stay in a nursing home before he passed away. And they were forced to, unfortunately, in his situation, get involved in a Medicaid spend down because they didn't have sufficient assets. They want to avoid that, and could we shed some light on this?
That is a great question. we find that many people purchase more coverage than they necessarily need and are therefore paying quite a bit, just like Paula's friends, $4,000 to $7,000 a year for the coverage. So the first thing is important to consider is to think about is how much coverage do you really need to meet this additional liability that you could have down the line. So we like to consider this we call this the $9,000 solution. When we're considering long-term care, we really think about it as disability insurance. We're trying to create an additional stream of income, and we think about it as for the non-institutionalized or the spouse that does not need care, because many of the comprehensive contracts, which are the ones that require an annual premium, will provide care at home, in assisted living, or in skilled nursing. So that means as long as you've lost two of those activities of daily living and it's a doctor has certified that it's going to last for more than 90 days, that would trigger your benefit. And although the money technically flows to the individual that is in need of care, we're really thinking about it from the other side. How do we make sure that we can support the individual that is either at home or really becoming one of the caregivers for that ill spouse?
Yeah, and I think really the core, and again, I think the way we look at it a little differently is when someone becomes ill, the income flows that they're receiving, and generally this doesn't happen until most folks are usually into their late 70s, early 80s, sometimes even later, is that they're receiving Social Security benefits. They may be receiving pensions. They may be receiving rental income.
And they're certainly receiving required minimum distributions from their assets if they haven't begun to take, if they weren't already taking income from their investment accounts.
Yeah, and those flows aren't going to stop. So what we need to do is we like to, again, Aaron used the number 9,000, which is kind of our benchmark. 3,000 for the non-institutionalized spouse and about 6,000, it could be more, for the institutionalized spouse or the chronically ill spouse. How does your current cash flow line up against those numbers? Where your deficit is really the hole that needs to be filled. Do you really need to pay for the entire cost of what you expect a stay would be? And the answer is no. And I would tell you that in many situations, and I would say many, as in like 70 to 80%, for folks that have long-term care insurance, we're cutting them back. And telling them that you're overpaying.
Right.
You don't.
And that really, I think, is because most individuals are looking at long-term care in a vacuum, meaning you go to an individual that's licensed to sell long-term care insurance. Maybe they're just an insurance professional, so you sit down and say, I've heard that it costs $6,000 to $7,000 a month for someone to be in a skilled nursing facility in a semi-private room. Well, then the agent's going to say, let's draw up $6,000 a month benefit, without taking into consideration everything we chatted about previously, all of your other income sources, what your overall financial position is. And being able to take all of those things into account might mean that you've overinsured, and that's not a problem because it's usually not a difficult process to be able to cut some of this back. Or if you're someone that is not currently insured, that'll just give you peace of mind to know that we might be able to structure something that's considerably more affordable.
Yeah, let's use an example. Let's say that in this situation we found out that Paula and her husband have an income flow of approximately $5,000 a month after taxes. So using 9,000 as a base number, 3,000 for the non-institutionalized spouse and 6,000 a month for the chronically ill spouse, they're going to be short about $4,000 per month,
which is about $150 a month in $150 a day in benefit.
At their age, that to fund a premium to cover that particular level of long-term care benefit, $150 a day, runs approximately $250 a month or $3,000 per year. Much more affordable.
If you can qualify.
That's right, if you can qualify. Do we need to add other types of coverages which we consider add-ons that can be significantly expensive? Inflation coverage. Probably not, which can run as much as a third of the premium. Or non-forfeiture benefits, which is, do I get my money back and take a smaller truncated policy if I want to quit paying premiums. A lot of these things can be expensive, and the truth is you probably don't need the frills, because you certainly don't get a thrill out of paying these premiums.
Right, and if we're considering inflation, which is at the top of everyone's mind, especially right now, and has been in terms of healthcare expenses for many years for people, what we will do is show you the difference in the premium price, which would be, we could say, let's do $150 a day for Paula and her husband, and let's add the inflation rider to it. That will increase the premium potentially from $3,000 annually to $4,000 or $5,000 annually. In the alternative, if inflation is a concern for you, we might say instead of $150 a day, let's bump it up to $200 a day. And that premium increase is going to be in the $500 range versus the $1,000 to $2,000 range on an annual basis. So we can always make adjustments for comfort, because in a lot of people's cases, long-term care benefits are a security blanket for them, ensuring their assets at a lower cost. Or, they just have concerns about the longevity of this money 10, 20, 30 plus years from now. So we can make accommodations for that, which hopefully can continue to keep a lower premium in mind.
And certainly, not everyone, as we know, can qualify for long-term care insurance. The number of companies that are offering this benefit has gone down by almost 70%. We also know that the underwriting standards can be strict, and there are what we call asset-based long-term care solutions for those folks that may not qualify. What's important to note, though, is that all of those solutions, as well as really long-term care premiums, are all being paid with after-tax money.
That's right.
We can't use money that's in our. We can't have our IRA own a contract or directly pay for a contract to do that. So,
and that's
an example
because,
of that.
Right, and also that's because mechanically, the Internal Revenue Service is an algebra problem. So if you're using after-tax assets, the good news is that any benefit you receive is going to be non-taxable to you. So when, you start to receive, if you've purchased a long-term care contract that's comprehensive, like we were suggesting for Paula and her husband, those premiums are paid after tax, but all of your benefit is received as it's not considered income to you. This would be a similar case when we're going to chat about George and Sally, who are considering a financially based product. They are going to use they are required to use after tax money, but any benefit they receive from the product is not going to be considered taxable income to them.
Yeah, it was interesting with George and Sally because they were. Of course, they're in a situation where they're older. They're in their mid-60s. They did come to us, and we did do their financial plan, and we came up with a recommendation that having long-term care protection would be important, and they needed some type of a supplement. We did go through the underwriting process with them, and unfortunately, they weren't able to qualify because of health, which isn't unusual. We see about 75% of the folks that apply aren't always accepted. But they did have some other after-tax assets which they weren't using for investment purposes at this point that could be used. Right, babe?
That's right. So they had about $120,000 of CDs and money market accounts today, and they felt like they only needed $60,000 as their vault money. So really, we're talking about $60,000 available to use towards a long-term care contract.
And they also didn't want to, and they said, we don't want anything to be really at risk. We're not interested in being involved in the market and growing this asset, but we know we need to have that cash flow or that asset available possibly to help pay for long-term care expenses.
Right, and there are many insurance companies that offer similar products that are built on a fixed annuity base, meaning the initial product is a fixed annuity. You're invested in the assets of the insurance company. They're going to be offering you a fixed rate of interest. There are longer surrender times on these contracts because you've added a long-term care benefit to that policy. So sometimes these can range from 12 to 13 years versus a shorter amount of time that may be associated with other annuity contracts. The nice thing is if we are using the example with George and Sally of investing $60,000 in an asset-based long-term care product, they're going to receive tax-deferred interest on this account based on the contract that they elect. They'll be able to, just as with every other annuity, if they needed access to some of these funds, they'd be able to pull up to 10% of the initial premium without disturbing the contract or creating any surrender penalties. But the catch to these policies is that you're going to give some, if not all, of the interest that you earn in the account back to the insurance company to provide you with long-term care benefits.
So you're paying a premium.
Right, you're paying a premium. It just comes in the form of a withheld interest payment to you. So, to give you an example of how one of these contracts might work, if George and Sally contributed $60,000 initially, they'll go through a abbreviated medical questionnaire, which just asks a few questions. The majority of them center around, are you already eligible for benefits? Meaning, have you already lost 2 activities of daily living? Are you already using oxygen? Things of that nature. And based on your answers to those questions, the insurance company will offer you potentially 2 or 3 times the amount of what you've initially invested for long-term care. So in Joe and Sally's case, they invest $60,000. If the insurance company says, okay, we'll double that, they would have access to $120,000 of benefit. If they qualify for the maximum benefit, which would be a tripling of their benefit, the insurance company will say, now we've created $180,000 for you of long-term care benefit.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to understand here is that it's really a 2-layer cake. The first layer is the money that you've put in.
Right.
The second layer is what the insurance company is offering you as the additional benefit.
Right. So you have to go through your money first.
That's kind of the bottom line. That's right. You're eating through your dollars first. If you never use the benefit or you don't use all of the benefit, any amount of assets that you have in there can be returned to your beneficiaries at your death.
And it's important to keep in mind about that. It's the initial, in George and Sally's case, it's the initial $60,000. So let's say neither of them ever used the benefit. $60,000 plus whatever deferred interest has accumulated goes on to the beneficiaries. Not the $120,000, not the $180,000 potentially. It's only your initial premium investment that's eligible to be passed on. If you use a portion of it, the remainder is available. If you use all of it and you start to eat into the insurance company's money, then none of it will be passed on. But it does have the potential to be passed on to your beneficiaries.
You know, and I'm sure that some folks are thinking, or maybe they're listening, saying, hey, this sounds like an interesting solution. It might be something that we might want to consider, especially because interest rates are so low, or zero almost at this point, on money that's sitting in our bank that we don't need for income purposes, or even for, as Aaron said, our vault for ready cash. But we had another situation with another client that didn't have this amount of access or didn't have this amount of capital, but they did have some life insurance policies. And what they were able to do in that case was to do what we call a tax-free exchange, which is to transfer the money directly from one insurance contract to another one. So it was a tax-free transfer. But what it was able to do was it was able to really create that capital base for them in a contract that they said, you know what, I don't know if we need the death benefits anymore.
Right. So there are quite a few options available for funding, and it's nice to be able to plan a little bit in advance for these kind of things, because maybe it would be an opportunity either to use some of the contracts that you no longer have specific purpose for in your portfolio, or to accumulate cash to be able to fund one of these policies if either you're not able to qualify for long-term care or you decide that you like the idea of the asset-based product a little more. I think we should take our final break of the hour, and then we can get back to, we have a couple of text questions and a caller on hold.
That's great. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We'll be right back.
The St. Louis Ambush return to the Family Arena Sunday, February 27th at 3:05 p.m. against the Dallas Sidekicks with the annual mascot game at halftime and a post-game autograph session with current players. Tickets available at the arena box office or at Ticketmaster.com.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The All Things Basement T experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry out that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
Arch Madness. It's all about the excitement,
the fans,
the history, the big moments.
Shoots at the horn. Good!
It's all about the madness.
To make it to the tournament.
And March,
it begins here.
It's the 2022 State Farm NBC Men's Basketball Tournament, March 3rd to March 6th, presented by Bally Sports Midwest. Visit archmadness.com for ticket information.
Andrea Steakhouse in O'Fallon, Illinois has been delighting steak lovers and making lasting friendships since 1978. They're a 7-time winner of the Belleville News Democrats Reader's Choice Award, and Andrea's world-famous steak sauce puts Andrea's Steakhouse in a class by itself. Open for dinner Tuesday through Thursday, 5 till 9, Friday and Saturday, 5 till 10. Call 618-632-4866 for indoor or patio reservations, or visit Andreas.com to view the curbside pickup menu. Andrea's Steakhouse, family-owned in O'Fallon, Illinois, just a short drive from downtown St. Louis.
This is Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back. We've got about 8 minutes left on the show, babe. Let's get those text questions going.
First, let's go to Mike on line 1 with a question about 403Bs.
Magic Mike, let's go.
Yeah, I haven't contacted you guys for quite a while. I probably should do that more, but I quit a job in August, and I had a 403B, and I do have a couple of accounts with you guys. I have an IRA. Should I be contacting you and get that rolled into my IRA?
Absolutely, Mike.
It's with Voya.
Oh, an easy one to work with. Absolutely. One, we don't want that to get left behind as you transition. And secondly, we can provide you with a higher level of management. And it's probably a good time to set up a coaching session, either phone, Zoom, or come into our offices in Olivet, so we can see if, you have cash flow needs, if you have upcoming expenses that we can help coordinate for you.
Yeah, I've got quite a few changes since I've been in there last, so I'll probably call during the week to make an appointment. But I just happened to be listening to the show, and I heard you mention earlier something about a 403B, and it's like, I better, a good time to call. So thanks for taking my call, and
we'll chat soon, Mike. Always a pleasure for you to. Thanks for giving us a call. I'm sure there are many people that have questions just as you did. And we definitely want to keep up with all of our clients and their changing situations so we can help keep them on track.
Well, yeah, I think what's interesting here is that I know that with Mike, as we will other clients, because we have other assets with us, we would have synergized what he had been doing with Voya with his current plan. So now what we can do is it's time to relook at this and re-synergize his plan.
That's right, and we do have a couple of text questions that have come through, so let's jump on those. The first is, does your company have lawyers to draw up trusts?
The answer is no. But we do have folks that we're very happy to refer you to and that we work with. whether you're on the east side or here on the west side, i.e. St. Louis,
right?
That are very capable and confident, and that we've worked with over long periods of time. And at the same time, if you do have a current attorney, we're happy to work with them as well.
And
we don't do these in-house.
We don't draw up the documents in-house, but we absolutely will discuss with you your potential needs for a trust, what your thoughts might be as to how you'd like your assets distributed. So we often call that estate planning. So we can get you prepared to see the attorney with ideas. They can help draw up the document as well as let you know about some things maybe we didn't think about or some other alternatives that you might want to think about.
Honey, that's such a great point, because in many cases, we're really sending our clients back to their lawyers, or we're recommending a lawyer for them.
Sure.
But having them meet with us in advance, we're able to vet what their real, true long-term objectives are.
Right.
Discuss what options they have available to them, so they can really ask some really good questions when they're there, and obviously get more information from their attorneys, make the time more valuable.
Absolutely. The second text question of the morning, of the break, was, how can you take Medicare when you are age eligible if you are delaying Social Security? Do you pay out of pocket directly to the Medicare premiums? This is an excellent question, because Medicare and Social Security are tied together, but they are not contingent upon one another. So potentially you could be taking Social Security at 62 years old. You're not Medicare eligible yet. You could be taking 62, and when you you could be taking Social Security at 62. When you get to 65, you may still want to defer your Medicare benefits. Although you run through the Social Security Administration in order to sign up for both of these benefits, you don't have to be taking Social Security in order to elect Medicare, as this texter mentioned, because when the texter turns 65, maybe they don't want their Social Security benefit yet, but you're interested in Medicare. You'll still use the SSA.gov website to elect your Medicare benefits, but you'll be using a Medicare-only application. In fact, they will ask you during your process of applying online, would you like to apply for Social Security? You'll say no, and that will divert you to the Medicare-only application. When you do sign up and start to receive Medicare benefits, you will pay, as opposed to on a monthly basis coming out of Social Security, you'll pay on a quarterly basis your Medicare premiums until you elect Social Security, and that will automatically flip over. Now, if you'd like to take it to the next level and you want to pay monthly your Medicare premium before you get to Social Security, after you've enrolled in Medicare, you can request an EFT, an electronic fund transfer agreement with the Social Security office to pull your Medicare premium on a monthly basis from a checking account. But you have to do that separately, and they do need a physical piece of paper signed in order to transact that. You cannot elect that in the sign-up process electronically.
Yeah, otherwise, what happens, I guess, normally is once you've elected your Social Security retirement benefit, if you are Medicare eligible, they take the Part B premiums from there directly, right?
They will automatically take it if you've elected Medicare. Now, if you're under 65 and taken Social Security, when you get to 65, they will automatically send you your Medicare Part A and B, your Medicare Part B card. You will have already received, Medicare Part A and B card will come in the mail to you. You may decide that you still do not need Medicare Part B, which is the component that has a premium associated with it. You are eligible to send your card back, and they will disenroll you from Medicare Part B. But when you sign up for Social Security, you are automatically, when you turn 65, enrolled in Medicare Part A. So what will happen is, if you decide, I don't need Medicare Part B at this moment, you send the card back. They will send you a new card that only has your Medicare Part A benefit associated on the card, and then you can elect your Medicare Part B benefit, just like Frank was discussing earlier this morning, through a special election when you are ready, because you may still be working or your spouse may still be working.
Yeah, this is great. And so I was going to say that as a part of our process, and something we talked a lot about this morning. You know, we are offering a webinar on March the 10th. And during that seminar, we'll be talking about, do I have the right advisor, and what are the services that are available through our firm for you, and maybe we may be a good choice for you. I would certainly suggest here is that, retirement game planning is really, it's a little complicated, but the fact of the matter is it's a lot of fun. And we think that the retirement game plan really have 4 or 5 really important pieces, not just creating an income for you when you retire, but also talking about how do we deal with things if something does go wrong, especially medically, if you do become chronically ill, like long-term care insurance. How do I pass the assets on to the people that I love when I'm gone? And maybe if I have a spouse, when my spouse is gone, in the most effective manner that we can. And certainly, as Aaron was just talking about, how do we hook on, how do we connect with Medicare? Maybe one of the most important components in retirement planning, which is making sure you have the right health care. So doing that, maybe doing it in a comprehensive way, is something you're interested in. Easy to do. Just go to our website, hit contact us, and you can always sign up for a coaching session and or enroll in our upcoming seminar. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more straight talk on retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.